Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Beta male.
Sexual anarchy.
The nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday, and we have a show. A little bit of a thing that we'd like to do here. A show, have some fun. I'm going to talk about, of course, neo-Nazis, which is decidedly not fun. Neo-Nazis, not fun. Neo-Nazis throwing a hissy fit, a rage fit, and leaving during an interview. Fun. It's almost as if they're canceling themselves. It's great. So we're going to talk about that, of course. That's fun. We have Ben Shapiro as well, saying something that I kind of agree with. What is going on? We've got that. We have, of course, Trump raging against the family. Yes, more family members, obscure family members of the special counsel. Always fun. True Social. Not doing so well, an update on that. And then we've got MAGA Karens, or I should say a MAGA Karen, and another pastor comes out against, well, against the far right. Interesting things. So we'll talk about that. A lot of interesting stuff on today's show. So before we dive into it, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. With that, let's do it. All right. Oh boy. Here we go on that. On Monday night, Kanye West brought all of his white supremacist friends, Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos, to talk with Tim Pool. Interesting. Now, Tim Pool, of course, claims to be a centrist. I'm an enlightened centrist. I'm in the middle of everything. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a disaffected liberal. Right. Sure. Now, during an interview, or this interview, Kanye, being big-brained as he is, brought up some very important and impactful topics that affect everyday working class people. Oh, did I say important topics that affect working class people? Actually, I didn't. No. I meant anti-Semitic. He brought up anti-Semitic comments. That helped no one. Now, that said, Tim Pool, always aware of making sure that his channels stay brand safe and filled with advertising, he decided to push back ever so slightly which caused this to happen.
I think they've been extremely unfair to you. Who
was they though? We can't say who they is, can
corporate
we?
press. I'm not using I don't use the word as the way I guess you guys use. I'm talking
it is
about
them though, isn't it? I mean, because because when you think about it, consider it. In 2018.
What do you mean it's not?
What do I mean? Like, okay, so how about? Are you leaving?
Are you referring to the press?
He's gone.
Beta male. I was only about, 15, 20 minutes into this? Into what is normally like a 2-hour show plus what was hyped up to be an after show for paying members, which was supposed to be uncensored or whatever, unrestricted. What happened? What happened? No, he was gone. The slightest little, I don't use the same word the way that you do, because I know what you mean, but it doesn't mean what I mean. It was barely any pushback at all. Not even like, you know what? Anti-Semitism is bad. And here's why. No, none of that. Just the most little mealy-mouthed, pathetic, weak-ass little bitch stuff from Tim Pool. And that was enough to get Ye to walk out. Beta male. Weak. Sad. Baby. And again, the pushback wasn't even pushback. Because Tim Pool, again, he's like, well, I totally agree. You're being totally unfairly treated by the media. Gee, you wonder why the media is going after Kanye? Could it be all the virulent anti-Semitism he's spewing, blaming everything on the Jews? Could it be that, Tim? Could it be that? Moron, idiot, weak, sad, pathetic baby. All of them. My God. All of them. And says, you're so amazing. Yeah, thank you for being here and everything. I'm just not talking about the same thing that you're talking about in the same way. Because I mean the corporate media, but but it's not, you mean that you, this is where we're at. This is where we're at with right-wing media. That's conservative media. If you still are saying, but Tim Pool is a centrist. Bullshit. Bullshit. If you think he's a centrist, I got a bridge to sell you. I got an invisible jet to sell you.
The brand new F-35s, fighter jets. They're stealth. You can't see them.
You can't see them. I'll take $10 million, please. Idiots. How do you even know how to tie your shoes? Leave the house. If you can't see the obvious that's in front of you. Blind. But again, snowflake behavior, right? And what's funny is that we were always told by, again, the likes of Tim Pool and the likes of, people that are on the right wing, the problem with the left, they're such snowflakes. They don't want to have conversations with anybody. We just want to have conversations. We just want to talk about things. But the left wants to shut us down all the time. Really? How many prominent leftists have accepted Tim Pool's invitation to go to the weirdo compound / skate park / maybe there's people buried in the back you don't know to debate Tim Pool in person? Several. And you know what? One example, Vosh. Vosh went there. He answered questions. The guy didn't storm out. He had a debate. But see, understand, Kanye is a snowflake. A sad, pathetic man who blames all of his problems and plays the victim. Guy had a brilliant career. And it pissed it all away. Because he's a moron. I don't know what Tim Pool was expecting when he invited literal neo-Nazis into his program. He should have known better than to platform them. But there you are. That's who Tim Pool is. And again, Tim Pool gave them the tiniest amount of pushback. He wanted to make sure not to push them too far in order to keep everything brand safe. In fact, here is Tim Pool admitting, I barely did any pushback.
Here's the thing. I'm getting criticized because they're like, Tim, why were you letting them say those things? I'm like, I barely pushed back.
I barely pushed back. What are you talking about? Barely. Yeah, I know that's the problem, Tim. That's the problem, Tim. You actually should have pushed back more. Because if Kanye was a little snowflake enough to leave, then you should have actually pushed back, but he wouldn't. He wouldn't. And again, Tim only pushes back enough to make sure that his channel stays brand safe on YouTube. That's why he wouldn't let the conversation go that far. And by the way, he made a lot of money. He makes a lot of engagement, clicks, views, super chats. Of course, now he's got the Groiper army on him. Those weirdos, the incels that have never known the touch of a woman. And by the way, there's a reason Nick Fuentes come out and said, is having sex with women gay? Fellas, is it gay to have sex with women? And he says yes. I know we covered that video. Ridiculousness. It's the weirdo cult. And they're all like, L Tim. I can't believe you would actually say, or say that kind of like anti-Semitism is wrong. Boo, Tim, boo. That's who they are. I don't think that's the average Tim Pool viewer. I'm being incredibly cheerful right now, guys. I think you know I am. But there's some overlap for sure. For sure. Now, the final thing, again, that shows you kind of how much of a coward Tim Pool is. We've already established that Kanye is a snowflake that is not interested in having any conversations, could never stand up. That's why his political campaign is just basically nothing more than a dumb stunt that's never going to go anywhere. It's going to get like 12 votes. But Tim Pool, after they left the studio, a Tim Pool associate confirmed that Milo Yiannopoulos, Nick Fuentes, and Kanye had all left the Tim Pool compound for good. That's right after he walked out, and then Yiannopoulos went to go and check on him to see if he's okay. Because he's out there crying in the parking lot or something. I don't know. And then the rest of them, Fuentes also leaves right afterwards. Now, this associate said that Kanye was complaining that he didn't get to talk enough. Oh, you were there for like 20 minutes. Yeah, you got to talk. Then you said some things that weren't exactly great. And just a tiny little pushback. Nope, had to leave. Had to go. Now, the Daily Beast Will Sommer also tweeted this about what happened. Tim Pool's entourage may lack the ideological nuance to required to understand what just happened after a Pool crony was dispatched to Kanye's waiting car and failed to win him back. They're accusing Kanye, get this, using left-wing rhetoric. Pool said he's deploying woke BS. Yes, that's right. Look at the leap of logic going on here. Somehow you have a show full of very rabid far-right wingers that gets derailed because of obvious anti-Semitism, the spouting of the literal Jewish question. Somehow it's wokeness's fault. It's the left. I can't believe the left would somehow just derail this show. How? Something wokeness. It's their fault, not ours. Ridiculous. But once again, here we are. Jimmy Kimmel played Fuentes' video asking if having sex with women is gay in his show last night. I mean, that's good. He's a little late, but good. I remember a lot of us indie media covering that. Rather proud of that video. I should go and find that. A little boost on the Facebooks. All right. Let's move on. Let's get to some pushback from a right winger that I agree with. Whoa. Weird. All right. Ben Shapiro appears to have had enough of Kanye West and his anti-Semitism. They're having a very public, hilarious spat. On Sunday, the Daily Wire founder responded to Kanye's criticism that Ben Shapiro's outlet accepted money from Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, that's troubling in itself, but we'll get back to that. Earlier in the day, in response to former President Donald Trump having dinner with West as well as white supremacist Nick Fuentes, maybe Milo Yiannopoulos might have been there. There are conflicting reports on that one. Shapiro had tweeted this, and it's a good point. I'll give it to him. A good way to not accidentally dine with a vile racist and anti-Semite you don't know is not to dine with a vile racist and anti-Semite you do know. Referring, of course, to Kanye. How Donald Trump, again, I think it's an excuse. Of course, I believe Donald Trump knew exactly who Nick Fuentes was. And by the way, also knew what Kanye was saying and had absolutely zero problem with it. Come on. You know he knows. But anyway, West responded to that by posting side-by-side screenshots of an article from Media Matters about DeSantis giving the Daily Wire more than $100,000, as well as Shapiro's tweet. Before I go into that, let me just note, obviously, at this point, I'm going to take the side of Ben Shapiro, which, again, is super weird, but okay. Now, again, what is Trump doing hosting Kanye after all the anti-Semitism? Well, because Trump also anti-Semitic. He plays into all the old tropes about Jewish people being good negotiators, brutal negotiators, and of course accuse them of having dual loyalty to Israel and the United States, which is ridiculous. I'm going to give you a couple of quotes here from Trump. This is during a 2015 speech to the Republican Jewish Coalition. Well, look, I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. This room negotiates perhaps more than any room I've spoken to, maybe more. Really? During a 2019 speech to the Israeli American Council, Trump told those assembled, a lot of you are in the real estate business because I know you very well. You're brutal killers. Not nice people at all. But you have to vote for me. You have no choice. Really? Have no choice. Right. In 2020, the Washington Post Greg Miller reported that Trump has said after speaking to Jewish leaders on the phone that, quote, they're only in it for themselves and stick together in ethnic allegiance. Not to mention, of course, you had the weird anti-Semitic ad involving, I think, Hillary Clinton, George Soros, and others. I mean, you know, the whole puppeteer thing. And by the way, Trump also suggested that that ethnic allegiance should extend to him because he has Jewish family members. In 2019, he said, I saw a poll in that last election. I got 25% of the Jewish vote. And I said, here I have a son-in-law and a daughter who are Jewish. I have beautiful grandchildren that are Jewish. I have all these incredible achievements. I'm amazed that it seems to be almost automatically a Democratic vote. Again, that's a super weird, yikesy thing to say. And by the way, there are demographics. Jewish Americans, for example, in New York, yeah, of course they vote for Democrats. Because they're liberal. It doesn't have anything to do with them being Jewish. You have conservative Jewish voters that, again, will vote for Republicans. Donald Trump thinks they're all the same. Well, that's textbook anti-Semitism. That said, did Ben Shapiro speak out against Donald Trump when he was president? Not really. Now, before then, of course, he did. Back in 2015, Ben Shapiro was against Donald Trump. And, you know, as soon as he became the nominee, however, the ass-kissing began. And that's because Donald Trump is, or was, the Republican Party's daddy. And he was for a long time, and Ben Shapiro happily defended Donald Trump in almost every way. That said, now that Trump has had his losses, the midterm, and is being rejected by the establishment very openly, Ben Shapiro's finally able to be honest, because I don't think Ben Shapiro liked Donald Trump at all. The whole time. but kind of held his mouth, held his tongue, as to not say anything to offend his rabidly anti-Semitic, racist base. That said, I would avoid giving Ben too much credit. After all, Ben Shapiro employs one of the biggest anti-Semites of all, Candace Owens, who's very much still buddy-buddy with Kanye. So now, getting back to West and the article. Now, according to Media Matters, as he gears up for a potential 2024 showdown with former President Donald Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis had enlisted a leading right-wing outlet for advertising, Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. The Republican governor paid over $100,000 since last year in fundraising expenses to the site, which has aired commentary supporting DeSantis over Trump. DeSantis and his associated PAC Friends of Ron DeSantis have paid $110,429.01 for fundraising expenses and list rental to the site since July 2021, according to the search of campaign data with the Florida Department of State. So look, on its own, it's deeply troubling. DeSantis is buying positive commentary from the Daily Wire, from a news agency, or supposedly a news outlet, right? That's weird. You shouldn't really do that. Again, sure, if you're buying ad space, that's one thing. But if you go and you look at all the positive commentary about Ron DeSantis, especially over Donald Trump, I don't know, it seems a little sketchy. And I'm going to guess he's not the only one who's done this on the right. I'm sure they all do. Daily Wire, of course, reaches a huge conservative audience. The establishment, of course, wants Donald Trump out because Donald Trump's a loser. That. But Kanye, however, Kanye's going to imply that it's because of something else. Shapiro, he writes, starvingly accepts $100,000 from one of my opponents, then tries to trash me. Posted West and now deleted. I'm going to say if anybody's starving right now, it would be Kanye. Yes, he's got a lot of money, but he's pretty much lost all of his business deals as a result of saying incredibly messed up anti-Semitic things. It's ironic because, again, he'll post virulently hateful and anti-Semitic things, and then when people rightly push back, even though it's on his side, he then doubles down and blames the Jews even more. No, that wasn't their fault, it was your fault. Congratulations, dude, you played yourself. Well done. You fucked around and now you're finding out. And this is how that works. The civilized world looks at this stuff and is rightly repulsed by it. You might want to have some self-reflection. So now Shapiro retweeted West's post and added this. Quote, sadly, you've trashed yourself. You didn't need my help. It wasn't me. It wasn't the Jews. It was just you. He's right about it. He's right. Now, Daily Wire co-founder Jeremy Boring also called out West and his stupid argument. But look, overall, what you're dealing with Kanye is somebody who is broken. And I don't mean his mental issues, which he does have some. No, I'm saying that there is a hatred inside of Kanye, which is not normal. I mean, that amount of hatred is never normal. Look at the friends, the so-called friends that he has made. White supremacist and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes, who thinks having sex with women is gay. What? Then you have Milo Yiannopoulos, who had endorsed pedophilia. Sex between grown men and 13-year-old boys. Oh, the best people, the greatest people. What a crowd. What friends. And ironically, again, this is what going so-called anti-woke, right? Because that's what they say it would. Which just means not being a completely hateful tool. That's what that's what being woke is, right? Not being a complete a tool, right? Well, that's what going anti-woke and being a tool will do for you. Really, it's just it's a hell of a fall for Kanye West. And I I'm quite surprised to see it, but there it is. All right. Let's move on to something a little different. Former President Donald Trump continues to rage about special counsel Jack Smith, so far as to attack anybody that happens to be associated with him. In fact, recently one of Trump's allies posted a claim about Smith's sister-in-law. Let me post that up on where it was posted on Truth Social. The sister-in-law of special counsel Jack Smith compared Trump winning the White House to 9/11 attacks, according to a blog she wrote after his 2016 election. Like Smith's wife, she contributed money to the Biden for President and Biden Victory Fund in 2020, every record show. A New York psychotherapist, Smith's sister-in-law, Blue Shavigny, advised her crying, sobbing patients. And of course, they're going to use that. They're going to use the same meme that they do for everything. The crying woman. To resist and fight the Trump administration. Trump was triggering for people. They felt threatened. I felt so scared myself, so utterly without hope, so depressed, Shavigny wrote, November 19, 2016. I woke up to the same feeling of dread I recalled after the attacks on 9/11. Wanted to be ready to act if Trump does something terrible. I wanted my patients to be vigilant too. So now, here's the thing. What does that have to do with Jack Smith and his ability to do his job? I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, okay. And what's the point of that? And they're posting that as a got you. In fact, this is how Donald Trump responded. And I'm supposed to get a fair shake from this person who's under tremendous pressure from his family, but he's actually worse than they are. What? Can Republicans and fair-minded people generally allow this to happen? Jack Smith. Oh my God. Jack Smith is nothing less than a hitman for Obama. Obama is Attorney General Eric Holder and Andrew Weissman. Weaponization of countries in big trouble. A big mess. What? You know what? It's funny because this is a good insight into how Trump and some of his cult members think. Remember, the first thing you have to understand about them is that no matter what happens, no matter what the situation is, they're automatically the victim. That they can never be the aggressor. They can never do anything wrong. In their mind, they're the victim. Deep state. They're after me. Obama, Biden. They're after us. They're after us. Oh, really? This is the same people that you call weak, sad, soy drinking, pink haired SJWs. Those are the same people who are somehow so overpowering to you that you are somehow the victim. Weird how that works out. Again, it's Schrodinger's leftist, right? Both simultaneously incredibly strong and dominant in society, yet also super weak, pansy soy boys and girls that, are easily triggered and can't handle anything and don't work. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But whatever. All right. So again, they're the victims, right? No matter what, they're the victims. Secondly, there's a lot of projection here. Now, they come from a group of people who live in a bubble. Now, look, a lot of us live in bubbles. There's a groupthink, right? There's a groupthink in when it comes to cable news, for example. When it comes to Washington, for example. Well, they live in an incredibly thick bubble. Almost like it's very, very safe in there, in that space. You could almost call it a safe space. And so in this bubble, the people in there think, well, obviously we would run a sham investigation to attack our political enemies. Why wouldn't we? Of course they would. So why wouldn't we got to do it first? Because they would, and we would. No, that's projection. In fact, look, what had happened during the Trump administration is Trump did use the IRS to target his political enemies. This is according to former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, who had served in the Trump administration. Trump told him about his desire to use the Justice Department and his authority as president against people who had criticized him. Now, two people mainly on the list, right? And that's James Comey and Andrew McCabe. Not exactly your leftists. Mr. Kelly said that among those, Mr. Trump said we ought to investigate and get the IRS on were the former FBI director, James Comey, and his deputy, Andrew McCabe. After Mr. Kelly left the administration, Mr. Comey was informed in 2019 that his 2017 returns were being audited. No fun. And Mr. McCabe learned in 2021 that his 2019 returns were being audited. At the time both audits occurred, the IRS was led by a Trump political appointee. That's one example of the Trump administration actually trying to weaponize government against people who would criticize Trump. And he thinks, well, of course, I would do something like that. In fact, I did something like that. So they must be doing the same thing by appointing Smith, which, by the way, Smith was actually hired by the Trump administration in another job. So that's irony, right? But in reality, nothing that Trump and his friends have uncovered so far could actually prevent Smith from doing his job. Again, the whole point of professionalism is to do your job in the most professional manner, despite maybe any personal feelings you might have. And people are able to do that. People do that all the time. I mean, yes, you can even have people who are anti-capitalist, people who are super lefty progressives working at like Amazon. You got to eat, right? You got to do your job. It's just what happens. And so nothing there prevents you from doing your job. And I don't know why they don't understand this. Yes, you can hold a personal opinion about something, but again, when it comes to your job, you can be impartial and follow the facts. People are capable of doing this, but Donald Trump isn't. And so he projects that upon everyone else. Their job is about evidence when it comes to being special counsel. Jack Smith's job is about finding proof of Trump's crimes. And if there is no proof, then there's nothing to present. And whatever they find, they relay that proof to the Justice Department that will, decide whether or not to do criminal charges based on the evidence. But here's the thing. Trump sees everyone as a lackey, sees everyone as I gave you a job. You should be loyal to me. And he thinks that, well, Biden appointed the special counsel, which he didn't. It was Merrick Garland. So then obviously that special counsel is going to be absolutely loyal to them, not the truth. And so the fix is already in when it comes to him. And that's what they believe. Of course, that's not how reality works. That's not how it works outside of Trump and his cult. But, try to explain that to them. And you might as well just, you'd have better luck slamming your head against a wall. Okay. Moving on. Go to True Social. While we continue to watch as Elon Musk drives Twitter into the ground, they've lost at least half of their advertisers, which means the majority of their revenue. But let's not forget that True Social is also spiraling the drain. That Donald Trump's struggling social media platform appears to be losing users at a substantial rate. According to right-wing media watchdog group The Writing, Comscore data for True Social has been showing a significant drop in users over the past 2 months. Trump's site reportedly reached a peak high of 4.2 million visitors in August and has been downhill since there, from there. In September, True Social was down to 3.38 million. Okay. And by October, was sitting at 2.85 million visitors. That is a total loss of about 1.17 million visitors over a quarter of its peak high numbers. Already, disaster, sad baby. So what's the reason? Well, there's multiple reasons. Ask Howard Polskin, a lifelong media vet and founder of the writing. He told Confider that the drop suggests a decreasing interest in what Trump is saying on his platform. So why don't we dig into that? Trump's a loser. Obvious. And by the way, it's not just like, no, he's an election loser. Lost in the 20, and then a lot of his candidates, the vast majority of his candidates in 2022 midterms also lost. They lost very winnable races. And it's because they were running as insane Trump candidates that were election deniers and people that, of course, wanted to literally have the government get between you and your doctor if you're a woman who, is pregnant. So, yeah, people were not in favor of that. But not only is Donald Trump a loser, but apparently Trump's gotten stale. The only thing he does now on Truth Social is whine and cry about the election that happened a couple of years ago. And then, also rage over the family of, people investigating him and all that. But the other thing here about Truth Social is that it's a bubble. Now, the right wing loves to talk about free speech. But on Truth Social, you can literally get banned for talking about the January 6th hearings. You can get banned for making fun of Donald Trump or Devin Nunes and his cow. So they don't even believe in their own warped version of free speech, free speech, free speech. But anyway, that bubble is full of right-wingers. Now, okay. Thing is, there's no libs to argue with. That's one of the favorite pastimes of the right wing. There's no one to own there. There's no liberal tears to drink. There's no SJWs to trigger. Well, where's the fun in that? Well, if you're a right winger, no. If you're MAGA, the only thing you really do enjoy is owning the libs. So what's there to do on Truth Social? Be honest, by the way, hate watchers. Those who are MAGA, that's why you're here. Fine. Thank you, by the way, for your continued viewership. I do appreciate it. Your little view helps. Every rage comment just feeds my algorithm, makes me stronger. Thank you. Appreciate it. But I keep making the point. That's why these right-wing social media sites end up dying off. If you're really into creating a successful social media experience and want to make money from it, well, then you can't just pander to one specific group on, for example, this is on the right wing, but if somebody made like communist chat or something, well, that's not going to be very appealing to the rest of everyone else. And that's going to die off as well. No, you have to, you can create a big social media company, by the way, and then allow people to create groups and sections for specific demographics. That's fine. That works out. And in fact, a lot of the social media that we see today does that, like Facebook groups, for example. But that said, you generally can't devote your entire website into the identity of being, we are conservative. But they honestly do believe that that's what Twitter and Facebook were doing, which is ridiculous. But that said, if you want to entice people to use your social media platform, well, you have to have some rules there. And rules, to make sure that you don't have violence, threats, and neo-Nazis or people that are constantly spamming the N-word at you. Because generally that makes it a very uncomfortable place for people to be. So you have to have some ground rules. That's it. That's it. And again, the other thing is you have to have a platform that people actually want to use, that provides some sort of utility in your life. Now, one reason that Twitter got so important and big is because you could really do a lot of social movements in real time, where you had real-time reactions to world events. And so that's an important utility. Now, that seems to have been, well, going away in this case. That said, why would I as a leftist want to use something like Truth Social other than to troll Trump supporters, which would get me banned? Well, literally no purpose unless you like the circle jerk. Which is why it's failing to retain a lot of users. It's also failing to gain advertisers for various other reasons, but mainly because you have Trump. It's a toxic brand, thanks to January 6th. But you also have the SEC investigation that has put a hold on the merger with the SPAC. And so that means he's not able to pay the creditors. And, if you can't pay your creditors, you can't really run a website. It's not going to stay online unless they're paid. So the site is in a world of hurt. But then, of course, you also have Twitter. Polskin notes that if the numbers keep declining, he may be tempted to go back to Twitter in order to reach a much larger audience. Especially since Musk has been busy turning Twitter into a right-wing hellscape and unbanning first people, first accounts. He's going to do a mass amnesty to a lot of the, 8 accounts that had been banned previously. That said, Trump might not be able to return to Twitter because, so Musk unbanned Twitter's account. Donald Trump's account to get him to go back on Twitter. Why isn't Donald Trump back on Twitter? Well, because he can't do so without being sued and without triggering claims of securities fraud. That said, has Donald Trump been one to follow the law and rules? He's not very good at it. And he's been sued so many times that who knows? He might show up again back on Twitter any day now. For me, it's looking more likely not of an if, but when. When. All right. An Arizona voter recently warned the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors that they're into facing the death penalty or having a violent revolution happen if they did not redo the recent midterm election.
I came here today to get an up-close and personal look at the 7 traitors to the United States Constitution.
Okay, again,
are
please.
Sitting at that desk. I will not repeat your election crimes. I will just say, not certifying the machines constitutes a form of interference. And in case no one has enlightened you people, interference in an election in the United States of America, Mr. Gates, is a capital offense. It's considered treason, punishable by the death penalty. I will just say this. The voting booth is supposed to be a time for a peaceful revolution. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution necessary.
Your time is up, and again.
So basically what we're at is give us the election results that we want or we will kill you. And of course we'll make things up. Wow, very, very healthy, well mentally balanced people. But look, understand that this is what the MAGA movement set out to do. To threaten people. These people are taking things that they don't understand and ascribing a nefarious motive to them when things don't turn out exactly the way that they wanted to. I lost an election, therefore I will now threaten violence. You, Karen? Really? You and what army? No, go sit down. You know what? And next time, if you want an election outcome that is favorable to you, why don't you go vote harder? That's it. That's the issue. Okay? Not everything is a goddamn conspiracy theory. But what disturbs me, again, is these conspiracy theories lead to violent rhetoric. MAGA Karen's not going to go grab a gun. But maybe MAGA Ken will. Because we've seen it before. And so that's rough. And by the way, where a lot of this comes from is being told day in and day out that if you don't get your way, well, first it's a conspiracy, and the only way to fight that conspiracy is to grab your guns. To water the tree of liberty with blood. And again, they're not talking about metaphors here. There are people out there that now believe that violence is the only way. And what got them to that point? Well, it's stuff that we talk about all the time. It's not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump's just the latest iteration of this. You have Fox News, you have conservative media. You have people putting themselves in their own violent bubbles. And so they believe in all of this, just horrible rhetoric, more extremist every single day. Now, one of you says the board member's too easy on MAGA Karen. Well, and that's because unlike members of the right, not all, but some of these members of the right wing, the far right, they actually respect freedom of speech. Whereas the far right, as I said before, well, they want to grab their guns and make sure you don't have your free speech and that you don't have your democracy. And that's what they're trying to take away here. Understand that's the end goal, is to eliminate our system of government, our representative government, in favor of either a one-party rule or, in their case, the case of January 6th, mob rule, and appointing somebody who, is a dictator. Peter Thiel wants to make us a technical technocracy or monarchy. You have, people like Nick Fuentes. Recently on Tim Pool's show. It was like, you know what we need to do? We need to get rid of democracy. We need to have a dictator. So that's what these people are saying. That's what they want. So understand that, yes, it is funny to laugh at the Karens. Because what's she going to do? Right? She's going to say some tough words, as she calls the manager. But there are people out there who will do violence, who will act on those words. And that is a scary thought. Not the fact that, it's going to be some big army and we're going to have a gigantic civil war. No, it's going to be stochastic terrorism. Because we've already seen it. So it is terrifying when you look at it. Okay. We go to one more story here. Okay. An evangelical pastor and former neo-Nazi is speaking out against the horrors of the MAGA movement, and specifically their embrace and twisting of Christianity. In an interview with the Toronto Globe and Mail, Pastor Caleb Campbell had explained why the MAGA movement is, again, incredibly, deeply unchristian. He said that Mr. Campbell the Globe and Mail said that Mr. Campbell spent more than 1,000 hours immersing himself in MAGA world, watching movies, reading their literature, attending biblical citizenship classes, and going to an upscale resort with 500 other right-wing pastors, their tabs covered by unknown donors. So again, that's scary, and it really does show you how deep-pocketed the right is. When you have these daddy donors that can come in and sprinkle, money everywhere and get these far-right pastors in these meeting places and do these resorts, it's very, very strange and very, very scary. Now, one event was from Turning Point USA. And Mr. Campbell explains how he felt during one of those events that was hosted by Charlie Kirk. Now, he said one of the things that he noticed is that Kirk had misappropriated quotes from the Bible in order to shepherd people towards right-wing ideology. Again, is that not surprising? No, of course it's not surprising at all. Campbell recalled Kirk talking like a pastor would talk, but then, of course, of him twisting the words. Mr. Kirk regularly refers to the book of Jeremiah, where the 29th verse says, "Seek the peace and prosperity of the city." Kirk, however, replaced seek with demand, a notion that becomes the basis for him to argue, Mr. Campbell said, for a proclamation of why we've got to demand our gun rights and demand a school choice. Two things very famously in the Bible. Or Jesus commands you to get that AR-15 and to demand that you can go to a non-woke school. Doesn't teach critical race theory. So says Jesus. Amen. The Lord has spoken. Really? Now, the biblical text, Mr. Campbell says, definitely has nothing to do with gun rights and school choice. He then added, this is ancient Israel in Babylonian captivity. It's an interesting way to phrase that. It is interesting. So now, you mean to say, Mr. Campbell, that a high school dropout getting paid a buttload of money by incredibly wealthy businessmen, mega donors, many of them shady, would lie and use religion to get people to vote for policies that help those very same businessmen and shady people? No, never. Except yes, this is exactly what happens. And look, the thing is, these people definitely not Christians. And it's funny because I'm not a Christian and I'm from the outside looking in. But since I have actually studied religion and have read the Bible, I can see this happening. And the Bible literally explicitly warned against false prophets and idol worship. That's exactly what's going on here. And Campbell is saying it's Donald Trump that is their current idol. He is their false prophet. And Kirk is one of the disciples that leads people to Donald Trump in order to get personal gain. Now, Campbell tells the Globe and Mail that after he'd watched this, quote, I was absolutely terrified and horrified. Well, as we all should be. He also added that what was shocking to me was the people in the room raising their hands and saying, Amen, hallelujah, and noted that they were having a religious experience. So that, again, that's bizarre. People having a religious experience over politics, weird. Over any politician, including Donald Trump. That's bizarre. I couldn't imagine. Again, maybe, again, I'm on the left, okay? I look at this and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you having a religious experience in a political event? You're supposed to be talking about, like, policy? Immigration policy? We're supposed to be getting together to solve problems, but instead you're turning this to like a church worship, session, mass. I mean, it's just incredibly bizarre. But again, understand that there's a purpose in wrapping a lot of the, unfortunately, Donald Trump's policies and the policies of the current Republican Party up in religion. And that's to introduce fascism. When fascism comes to America, and you've heard all heard this quote, it'll be wrapped in a flag and carrying the cross. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a way to introduce incredibly unchristian policy positions into people that claim to be Christians. In fact, Campbell says that much of what he heard in those 1,000 hours he spent undercover in those right-wing events were palatable. Interesting. Now, he gave some examples. The emphasis on patriotism and honorable service, hard work, and love of neighbor. Okay, sure. But he then noticed that how they twisted it to fit those narratives. He said this: they're afraid the outsider is going to take over and eliminate their life. It's the erasure part that is the greatest threat. And this goes back into, of course, Great Replacement theory, which is an old anti-Semitic conspiracy theory where they believe that, it's George Soros, the Jews, the Democratic Party that is ostensibly controlled by the Jews, are busing in immigrants to replace everyday Americans. I always wonder, what do you mean replace? What is the person who's supposed to replace me? Gonna send me to Mexico? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But they say it anyway. They believe it. It again doesn't make any sense. But here's what he said. He came to understand that Mr. Trump's Make America Great Again as an appeal to ethnic preservation in the guise of defending a Christian nation. Now, look, this country was never founded as a Christian country. Sorry, we're a secular country. That's it. Now, that means that we have freedom of religion and freedom from religion. It means that everybody is able to worship as they please so long as they don't harm anyone else. That's the America that I believe in, and that's the America the Founding Fathers believed in. You don't believe me? Look it up. Oh, I'm those liberal history books, let me tell you. Yeah, sure. But look, Christianity, yes, Christians are a majority in this country. Christianity took off because most of the people here in America were Christians. But we've always had the freedom of religion. Founding Fathers were very, very clear on that. And you only have to look at the stinking letter that Lauren Boebert had, responded to, had quoted from the very Founding Fathers that she claims to support. She dismisses the stinking letter, which basically points out that, hey, we are a secular country with a separation between church and state. That said, the far right does not want freedom of religion. They don't want freedom at all. They want domination over other people. Go anywhere on the right, and you'll find how first they're the victims, and how the only way to not be the victims is to strike first, to control them first, and then claim, well, you made us do it. You made us do it. We're just hitting back. The left did it first, so we have to take over. They tried to wipe us out. And again, the victimhood mentality. Oh, we're getting attacked. We're getting attacked. We're getting wiped out. We need to have more white babies because there's too many brown babies. There are too many black babies in this country. And then also, they love to claim that everything is getting shoved down their throats. Down their throats. Now, of course, it's not true. Trans people existing isn't shoving their trans ideology down their throat. It's allowing trans people to actually be visible and live their lives, which doesn't harm you in one bit, which is why they make up the groomer narrative. They're coming for you children. And look, they believe this stuff. People like Charlie Kirk, Dennis Prager, Elon Musk, Tim Pool, Donald Trump, they're pushing straight up lies, misinterpretation. They help whip out or promote moral panics like the, drag queens, the groomer narrative to get people to be afraid, to act out, and then to, whatever that means, take their country back. So, now Campbell believes that, of course, this is dangerous and that it's white nationalism, which is essentially Nazism. He said this: "This is a mean-spirited, vulgar grab for power and with violent rhetoric. I'm familiar with what it means to be enculturated towards violent behavior. As I mentioned at the top of the segment here, Campbell was a neo-Nazi. And now he's seeing the same types of beliefs come out of the far right into the mainstream, and he's not the only one. Kathy Petsis, leader of the Arizona Republican Party, explained that after Trump disputed his 2020 election loss in Arizona, she began to see large numbers of America First adherents seeking to become precinct committee members, a local party functionary. She met 132 of them for coffee. Roughly half of them believed that Trump was denied victory through election fraud. She said that those conversations felt like psychological intervention. Quote, "You had all this delusion going on." And she was also taken aback by people voicing prayer at party meetings where they would refer to the left as the quote-unquote demonic left. That's right. It's the demons.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
A bunch of demons. You know, that's in reference to flying, but nonetheless, building, I guess. Yeah. The demonic left, everyone. Demonic left. She said it's unconscionable to me that they usurp religion for their own political gain. Well, unfortunately, that's what's been happening to Republican politics for decades. We don't talk about policy. We don't talk about issues. Now it's all, well, morality policing, satanic panics, moral panics. We're not talking about tax rates anymore. We're talking about, I mean, should trans people be allowed to exist? And you have one side that says no. That's insane. Insane. Yes, people should be allowed to exist. People who are different, and that's okay. They're not harming you. And look, what's funny is that you had these, one of the groups, Moral Majority, that was created, and other groups like it that came after it that used religion, Christianity specifically, as a way to push people to the right wing, which basically passed policies that help big corporations and multi-donors. And generally, that's what it's all been about. Now, I'm glad this guy's speaking out, Mr. Campbell, trying to help deprogram people, because that's one thing that I've talked about for quite some time. How do we deprogram these people? Turns out it's a very, very long process, and it's very difficult. He says that he first has to develop some trust from these people, which, again, difficult, and I don't think a lot of people would have the patience for it. He also would encourage these people to take a fast from media for several weeks. Now, what's interesting is I had talked about a poll, a survey that was done. And it basically talked to people or measured people's political opinions after they were asked to take a break from watching Fox News and right-wing media. So your Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. You take time off media, off that media, and then get in a room with people who might disagree with you about issues. Or they even polled them about those issues and found that they had actually come a little bit closer to the center, away from some of these far-right views. And then, of course, had completely reverted back when they started watching Fox News and right-wing media again. So it's really fascinating how much of an impact it has, the media that people consume, when it comes to their beliefs and how they feel about things. So that is interesting. And again, this is probably why he asks people to take a couple of weeks off Fox News, so they can be sensible, they can be reasonable. And by the way, he also invites them to sit at the table with others who hold these different views to discuss issues like immigration. He says that people who've accepted his intervention have expressed relief at emerging. People say, "I'm no longer as anxious. My blood pressure is markedly down. My heart rate is slower." So that's because, turns out, hate and fear, constantly being bombarded with threats and being afraid all the time and angry, yeah, that's exhausting. Very, very exhausting for a person. Now, speaking of hate and fear, detractors have called Mr. Campbell a, quote, You'll love this. A fascist, Marxist leader with Luciferian spirits of fear. Fun. Now, of course, a lot of that's projection, except for the Marxist part, except they probably don't know what a Marxist is. So it's just like a name for people that they don't like, kind of like woke. Do you even know? Can you define what woke is? Can you define a Marxist? Probably not. It just means anything that I don't like. But anyway, he says, Campbell says that he is driven to counteract what he sees as false doctrine of power, one that conflates political and religious kingdom building. Such an idea is not new to Christendom, he says, pointing to Rome under Constantine and Charlemagne. Quote, it's a perpetual heresy. This one is just sprinkled with red, white, and blue. This one tastes like apple pie. Well, of course, I would claim that that's the poison apple that they're eating. But look, again, I like what he's doing. I hope he has success. Unlike the far right, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to destroy anyone. Certainly not the country. I know what I want to do is I want to I want to dismantle unjust systems of power that are hurting everyday working people. And one thing that I know we're all being hurt by is economic issues. Everybody's impacted by the concentration of wealth that sits at the top. The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. We're all impacted by having no representation in our government thanks to money and politics and obvious corruption. And so that's what needs to be destroyed. The systems of power need to be dismantled. Not people who disagree with me. Not trans people, not gay people, not religious people, not conservatives, not liberals, not progressives. Nazis, sure. Yeah, Nazis do need to be. But then again, right? We're all people, though. And we are all affected by the same things. We all deserve basic dignity and rights, respect, and don't let anybody out there confuse you about who the real enemy is. The real enemy has always been hate, fear. Okay. All right, that's all I got for today. Let me read some super chats before we go. LL, I read that earlier, but thank you very much for the $5. Appreciate that. Jonathan Leiter says, Happy Giving Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Giving Tuesday. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Appreciate that. All right. And then let's see if there's any Twitch here. Thank you for the new follow on Twitch. And that's about it. All right. So, if you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important to do so. Again, always helps us out. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Night Nation.
There's some whores in this house. Wet ass P-word.
I'm not working on McDonald's money.
No.
Disappointed!
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Oh yeah. Resurrection is about the people.
Oh my God! He admitted!
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who